John Voket, I was talking to someone earlier this morning who was at a boat show. Okay, they were at a boat show, and they said it's so good to be back. I suspect that the folks who gather to celebrate the arts here in Newtown this weekend are going to feel the same way. And it looks like we got some real good weather.
Yes, apparently the weekend's going to be awesome. And, even though they're looking at possible passing showers tonight, when talking, we've got the big opening weekend with the ticketed concert that's going to culminate with our friends from the Alternate Roots band that's done a lot of playing here in Newtown. We've also got a really exciting lineup over the weekend with the Sova Dance and Puppet Theater sort of doing both on-stage performances and then kind of roving through the crowd. There's numerous tents and bands, and I especially want to mention the Doug Wahlberg Band, which and all the bands that are sponsored by Newtown Parks and Rec. There's Union Rail, Belden Wheeler, Steve Rogers Band, the Shoutbacks, Nine North, Steve Clark Quintet, Sean Lemke. The Newtown High School Marching Band will blow you away. It's incredible to see. And then Ed Accardi, solo artist. There's a dance tent, including a master dance class with a New York City Rockette from Radio City Music Hall. There's the Ever Wonder Children's Museum and Discovery Museum partnership in the Art of Science tent. There's a cooking and a maker tent, food trucks, beer and wine. It's just a great weekend. You can really spend both Saturday and Sunday. And it'll be an incredible happening, as it is every year. And we do encourage people to stop by, especially on Saturday, to the Newtown Bee station. We'll be giving free copies and chatting up subscriptions and getting story tips. So come on by.
Where will you be?
This weekend.
In other words, is it an open house at the Bee, or you'll have a tent?
Oh, no. We're going to have a station at the Arts Festival within the vendors. There's I too many to name. There's probably in the neighborhood of 36 different other additional vendors, plus craft tents and individuals who bought space to sell paintings and photography and other creative output. So just a really fantastic, whether you could come in for an hour or two or, spend the whole weekend, there'll be something for everybody.
And this is really the first big post-COVID, if I could even say that, but
right.
Current, the first really big outing, right? For folks.
Yep. This is a huge event here. Also, right across the street, if people are coming with their families, they not only can do the Arts Festival, but if they're around on Sunday midday, the Catherine Violet Hubbard Animal Sanctuary is hosting their first sort of large scale public event this weekend called Monarchs, Meadows, and More, and it's going to feature the release of not a cloud release of monarch butterflies, but individual releases of monarch butterflies out into their pollinator gardens. So it's a great way to learn about pollinators and how to help create meadow situations on your own property that are more pollinator friendly, and the critical role that monarch butterflies play in the big ecosystem of our planet.
I count on you for this stuff. So where is a good place? What is a good place to station oneself?
In terms of parking
this weekend, yeah. Where's a good meetup site? If we were meeting?
I would say probably you're going to end up being directed to park somewhere. But if you were going to be converging with other people coming from other places and you wanted to be able to bounce between the two, I would say a great place would either be the Reed Intermediate School parking lot or in front of the Park and Rec garage and equipment office, which is right on the corner of Trades Lane and Wasserman Way, directly across from the main entrance to the Fairfield Hills campus.
Yeah, see, this is the kind of stuff I count on you for. Because we're going to be converging and gathering with other folks, what is the latest update on vaccines, on testing, on Delta? I just did a piece with a neighboring municipality that is starting to test again. Where are we at in Newtown?
Well, good that you're asking, because I literally just hung up before getting on with you with Donna Culbert, the Newtown Health District Director. We have a 10:30 meeting planned this morning to discuss how we might be stepping up and sort of rethinking the way we're going to be reporting local information to residents in terms of COVID infections. It's a real tightrope walk, John, because a lot of times when there's only 2 or 3 or 4 new infections in a week and you're reporting on it with any degree of details, you run the risk of actually identifying the person who has the illness among their circle of friends or neighbors or acquaintances. So, we really need to be sensitive to the privacy of individuals to the extent we can who may become infected with COVID-19. But we still have a greater public responsibility, especially in instances where there's spikes in cases, or by some chance, these cases are happening in venues beyond individual home or family units. So that's a challenge. But the good news is, as we have on our front page today, while the governor continues to remain concerned about outbreaks around the state, here in Newtown, last week, we experienced a 25% reduction in the number of new cases. It's unclear whether or not the recent mask mandate that was initiated in town is playing any role in that, or the greater public awareness campaign that is ongoing. But we had a nice 25% dip in new cases last week.
If I may, the relationship that you guys have with the health director seems to make disseminating information a lot easier. I mean, you guys have there's a synergy there.
Yeah, I have to say, when I first started in community journalism back at the Valley Gazette, serving the Central Naugatuck Valley back, 25 years ago, my editor at the time said, there's 2 people that you really need to get to know and work with because they will be your greatest sources of information: the health department director and the town clerk or city clerk. And that advice has served me for the rest of my career. And I've shared it with other proteges and trainees for my entire career as a peer and a manager. And it continues to stand true. Having a good working relationship with the health department, talk about a source that literally has their finger on the pulse of every single resident, worker, and visitor in any given community or region. That's the person. Who else potentially touches every single person every single day? There are very few of them in a community government kind of structure.
Yeah. It's so funny because when you and I have a similar start in this business, and I just remember that the owner operator of the radio station that I was at said to me, basically, everybody is an asset. Literally everyone. He would open up the door and point outside. Even the guy who worked at the dry cleaners. And boy, was that true, because we're a small staff. So to have people bring us news and updates, it's very helpful for sure.
Yeah, community in both of our positions as community news professionals, having community assets and being able to engage people in that capacity is critically important. I mean, every single walking, talking person within a municipality, whether they're residents, workers, government employees, they've got 2 or 3 stories to tell: good news, bad news, or something in the middle. So it is a rich resource for community journalists like you and I, to have the good fortune of being able to tap these people for stories.
You held up a copy of the edition of the Bee that's on newsstands now.
Yep.
Top fold some pictures from 9/11 memorials
from the big CT United ride, which happened on 9/11, which was the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Apparently drew in excess of 3,000 motorcycles that came into town in Dodging Town from Bethel on 302, rode all the way up to the intersection of Main and South Main, and then made that dogleg right turn to go down to Monroe. So due to the physical geographical size of Newtown, I think we had the riders within our community for a greater distance than any other community on the ride, except maybe Bridgeport.
I happened to be out and about, and I was on I guess, how would I say this? I was a few minutes ahead of them. And the preparation that was going into, bringing them through town, and the amount of people, John, that were out sitting in their front lawns and setting up folding chairs. It was really special.
Yeah, it's something to see. I mean, you don't have no concept of how many motorcycles, 3,000 motorcycles is
until how loud,
or until you're sitting there for 15 minutes watching them go by. And a lot of them were decked out with flags and outfits and hats and things. It was a real celebratory type of thing. And it was also cool that, it's not just all like big Harleys. It was like people on small dirt bikes. It was people on, mid-sized bikes, singles, doubles, dogs in the sidecars. It was soup to nuts. It was a inspiring spectacle.
And we talked obviously last week about 9/11, but again, the turnout from the community, and maybe it's because it was the 20th anniversary, but I feel like for the first time in a long time, people were talking a lot more about their memories and about what occurred, and maybe more young kids too.
There's so many. I noticed as I was kind of flipping through my streaming services over the past couple of weeks, there is more than ever proliferation of new content to watch, whether it's documentaries, interviews, new movies, new short series. There's a lot of information now. We have that, the FBI just released all of that classified information last week. There's a lot about it on and in the news. There's so much happening that's accessible, and young people are interested in these things. They hear it. They grew up hearing about it, but now they're getting to the age where they can actually go online or open a newspaper and learn more about it. Truly one of the, the top historical tragedies in American history. Yeah. It's kind of gratifying to know that the younger people are interested in learning about it and keeping the memory of the thousands and thousands of people who lost their lives on or since alive.
And again, how so many from Connecticut, from the area.
Yeah.
Our last few minutes together, the council has been busy here in Newtown. You want to give us an update on some of their dealings? I see funding for playground equipment, HVAC equipment. Talk to us about what's going on.
So at the next at the November elections, Newtown residents are going to be asked to endorse a number of capital projects on the ballot for approval. In Newtown, if it's a municipal project, the approvals for the bonding authorizations begin at the Board of Selectmen, and then they are reviewed and vetted by the Board of Finance and recommended to the Legislative Council, thumbs up or thumbs down, virtually always thumbs up, sometimes with caveats or think about this or whatever for the future. But once they go to the council's the final word before the voters on projects exceeding a certain financial threshold. So the council was the final step for a couple of those initiatives. And in fact, this Wednesday, 2 nights ago, as we speak, they were looking at crafting language that was going to accompany the ballot, to some explanatory language, at least begin crafting that explanatory language so people would know a little bit of the backstory before they cast their vote. So that's what's going on primarily at the council level now. The Board of Selectmen also on Monday began its deliberation of the next round of capital improvement and bonding projects that are in the chute, so to speak. So right now we're sort of in CIP season, capital improvement plan season. So once the selectmen approve the capital improvement plan, it merges with the Board of Education's capital improvement requests and goes to the Board of Finance and then to the council. And eventually those projects find their way, if they're approved, onto a ballot next year or the following year.
Well, we count on the Bee to keep us updated on those projects.
Well, we pride ourselves, whether people find it interesting or are consuming it or not, you know, like any local small newspaper, part of the living history book of the real time, history book of the community. And so many people surface when a project is actually approved or in construction or recently constructed and say, how did this whole thing happen without us knowing about it? And we keep having to remind them, well, you need to read and subscribe to the Newtown Bee, because we actually started writing about this before the public was even given a chance to comment on it. And we certainly advertised in multiple venues within the paper and website how people could come in and talk about it when they had a chance to make a difference and to voice their concerns or support of these projects. Now, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 36 months later, the horse is gone out of the barn for a long, long time. We try to be there in that as that information source from day one when a project is conceived.
And who is the reporter that you have on stories like that?
Well, right now, Jim Taylor is our lead reporter for government affairs, but Alyssa Silber, another reporter, has been doing great work as well. She's got a report in this week's paper and online about some actions from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Of course, Eliza Hallebeck, our education reporter, is on top of everything that's happening with the Board of Education, especially in terms of things that might require public engagement on the schools side of things. So, we've got it covered.
You sure do. And we always like checking in with all the different folks at the Bee. We've had several different voices from the Bee on the air, and we appreciate their efforts. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather, and maybe I'll bump into you. Will you be at the tent at the?
I may be bouncing in there off over the course of the weekend. Sure. So hopefully I'll see you. But I always would like to close recommending people just go to newtownbee.com, go to the calendar pull down at the top of the page, and just open it up and see. This weekend alone, there are close to 20 things happening in town.
All right, wait, I'm there. Oh, okay, here it is here. I'm there right now. Calendar.
If you scroll down, yep, between Friday night and Sunday night, about 18 or 20 different things happening.
And also, I think we talked about this last week too. Updates, for instance, there's an event that was canceled.
Right, correct. Yeah.
So that's a good place to go before you drive out there.
Right.
All right, John, I hate to run, but it's always good talking to you. Have a good week.
Okay. And once you get the Zoom file,
I'll send it through.
All right, John. Great.
Be well.
Thank you for having us.